Hi there, welcome to the Presgrove case. Today we're really focusing in on more discrepancies with time in regard to Kaden Pressy, Elisha Lee, Georgia, and maybe Breeley as well. A collection of screenshots of conversations from key people, such as the names mentioned of times of when events happened. For example, the main theme of Georgia, Kaden Pressy's cousin, to Elisha would be seen as a niece, at a party, underage drinking, drunk, and past a certain point where Elisha gets concerned, worried, and wants to go and collect her because of movement on the highway. And from there on, and the timing of Kaden Pressy and his timeline coming in with Elisha making that call to announce what's happened and what's been successful. But it's not that simple, because along the way, these events and comments made by Elisha and maybe Kaden and anyone else in between, there's different times at different points with the same event, and to try and keep up with it all is a complete and utter mess. Now, if you ignored most of the comments and you were never aware of it, and all you listened to was Kaden Pressy's Partners in True Crime interview, everything else unaware of, it would make a little bit more sense and it would be okay. But then when you add the layer in with the private police interview with Kaden Pressy, where different times are mentioned in regard to when he was woken up or when he went back to sleep, that really doesn't help. And then Elisha doing the same thing with different times here and there. And maybe there might be some misunderstandings where a time could be correct, but in terms of the event which happened at that point wasn't worded that way as people interpret. It's a mess, but many things are in this case. But the reason why we're looking at this area, the themes and topics with these key people, is because they've put themselves out there more online compared to what other people of interest have done and other party goers. Of course, there are chances that there would be discrepancies if other party goers did put themselves out there online and communicated a lot along the way. At first giving some times, later giving other ones, whether that be down to memory loss, whether it be down to learning and remembering new things, and then adjustments being added in for the better or for the worst. But that's just not been the same on the surface levels. It's just not possible to do. So let's just at least work with what we've got. I was going to do a bit more of a simplified video today with the screenshots that I had, at least, which were interesting enough, but credit to Tim Daniel for more repost, which I think maybe it was done in February. So we're looking back at a previous Facebook post which has all key comments and messages together, reading through, trying to compare, contrast, make sense of any of it, see if there's any links or if it's just one big mess and it ties in, whether it helps or harms Kaden's timeline. I guess we'll find out by the end of this video, but welcome to those watching this live premiere, likely to be one because of the length of the video. Feel free to engage with the live chat located on the right hand side of the screen, and if you do want to leave additional comments, if you do have any questions, drop them down below under the video. I can respond back later. And if you want to catch up on recent coverage by me on this case and the full playlist, you'll be able to find that top right where the I symbol is. If you want to support this channel, down below, pinned message by me with additional links, for example, the PayPal one, which is a more practical alternative method. And with that being said, the order of how we'll do things today, I'll show you my screenshots, which I've archived with time, read them out, break them down just a little bit, and then add on with the Facebook archive screenshots of conversations. And then if need be, we can apply it to the maps later. But I've not created a project just because there'll be so many overlaps with a event, but with different times. I mean, at the end of the day, when certain individuals bash on about, well, Kaden's phone proves this and that, like his timeline's correct and the phone data proves this and that, we'll start using your own phone data then when it comes to picking one another up and then applying it there. Okay? Maybe you're not a person of interest, you weren't there at the time of the death, but you were there earlier or later. Just passing by and checking the phone data record, pings, geofence, geonetting there, and if it's possible to release it public online within reason, that would be good. It's just sometimes people that push and push and push a certain thing and say, that's a fact, it is a fact, it's backed up, but it's in the background, but we're not going to show it. But by the way, I might have proof myself of additional points where I could reinforce stuff, but instead of using my phone as evidence or proof online, I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to say words instead and go back and forth and change it. What good does that do? If there's an opportunity to release hard evidence and it doesn't harm the case, and you might as well do it. Oh, you don't owe anyone anything, you don't owe anyone an answer. But with that mentality, do you honestly expect for the problem to just go away like that? Sometimes a bit of action needs to be taken. It's not happened yet. So, with that being said, let's begin this analysis and see. To start things off, I thought we'd get a visual photo up, which was at the party house, taken September 3rd, 2023, 10:50 p.m. Sunday night. And it's quite important this, because 10:50 p.m. Sunday night, Georgia had already arrived, and Kaden Pressy taking a video. This is a screenshot from his video panning about, zooming in on Georgia, located over there, Kaden's cousin in the white shirt, just to prove to Elisha that Georgia is safe and okay. Georgia's friend, known as Breely, located on the left-hand side of the screen in I think a black skirt or black shorts with a bit of a ponytail. And in this moment, it looks fine and okay. No one really appears too drunk, nothing problematic. But then later, going into early Monday morning, that's when things took a slightly worse turn for some, which then sparked the movement and the action taken by Elisha. Take in mind, Kaden Pressy, I believe in his Partners in True Crime interview, highlighted that whilst his photo was taken at 10:50, it wasn't acknowledged the timestamp of it, I don't think. But we've got the timestamp here. But earlier, and mentioned in Partners in True Crime, at 10:30 p.m. So about a 20-minute time difference, 20 minutes earlier compared to when this was recorded and taken. At 10:30 is when Georgia and Breely showed up at the party. Kaden was not expecting it. And when that realisation kicked in, Kaden said he had to sober up to protect George, make sure no other guys messed around with her. But Kaden also communicated with Elisha about it, but kept begging and hoping that Elisha wouldn't grasp or reach out to George's mom, called Melissa. Kaden didn't want Georgia getting in trouble and felt she would be okay at the party and safe, and Elisha went along with it. There's been some criticism by people in the community online, the outlook towards that, turning a blind eye. But then later, then it becoming a problem because of the alcohol situation and Kaden being away from Georgia when Elisha wanted Kaden to watch over her. And that will be shown and demonstrated shortly in some of the little screenshots possibly. I just wanted to give you a bit of a backstory there. This is one that showed up at some point, and this was a conversation with Elisha and somebody else on Facebook, a DM message. As to who leaked it or revealed, I don't know, because they come out at different times. There is a timestamp, a date, May 7th, I think 2024, at 8:37 a.m. And a person says, what time did Kaden Pressy hear Jack Newton and Noah arguing again, the heated argument about the girls? And Elisha says, 3 a.m. on Sunday. Now, if that's the original and first argument in which it was Noah yelling at Jack because Jack was flirting with Noah's girlfriend at the time, as Kaden Pressy worded in, I believe, his private police interview. Kaden Pressy also mentioned it as past midnight. So yeah, it would count as Sunday morning, but no exact time given, or not quite. But Elisha is saying it's happening a bit later on in terms of the morning. But whilst that might be okay and make sense, the next bit doesn't when Elisha says when Georgia was leaving. As in, Sunday morning, 3 a.m, Jack, Noah, having an argument about girls, and Georgia was leaving at that time. How can Georgia be leaving the party 3 in the morning on Sunday when she only arrived for the first time at the party at 10:30 p.m. Sunday night? You know, it's weird. Doesn't quite make sense. Unless Elisha made the mistake and actually meant to say Monday morning, Monday 3 a.m. is when Georgia was leaving. That would be a little bit more believable. However, not quite, because comparing that to Kaden Pressy's interview of where he mentioned times like Partners in True Crime interview, part 1, Kaden had said 2:43 in the morning. Elisha had called him to announce that Georgia has made it back home safely and it's all okay. But if what Elisha says here was true at some point, that Georgia was leaving at 3 in the morning, but Kaden says he received a call at 2:43 that Georgia had already made it back home, Georgia must have left earlier, not at 3 in the morning. So this is a complete mess, is it not? Do we have anything else? The undersheriff wants to talk to Kaden. As in when? May 7th, 2024. The undersheriff as in what? Jimmy Williams? Was that an interview or what? Was it recorded? Did Kaden do it? And what's below? He said Noah was asking everyone for a ride home the Sunday night, and he did indeed hear Jack and Noah arguing. See, we've heard it mentioned by Kaden himself that it was past midnight or really late Saturday night going into early hours of Monday morning. Saturday night going into early hours of Sunday morning before the breakfast and all of that. But there was supposedly another argument, a second one, at some point on Monday morning before Noah had walked away to cool off, and we don't hear about that anymore, which is a problem. As for this piece, Elisha, Kaden said the Texas boys had already left. Many people were leaving around 3 in the morning. So this is kind of like an estimate. Just words, numbers, not an actual piece of hard evidence. So you just take it with a grain of salt. Someone responds, couldn't be them then, so it couldn't be them. Right, and then Elisha says, unless they came back, I give it maybe 15 minutes before Kaden was asleep. So 3:15 a.m. until 5:15 a.m. Kaden said he knows it was 5:15 because he looked at his phone. And Jack was never asleep whilst Kaden was awake. Kaden only slept from 3:15 to 5:15, and Avery, Carter, Jasmine, Mikey never went to sleep whilst he was awake either. Is that so? I mean, based off Kaden's timeline and how he words stuff, doesn't quite match up with what Elisha says here. Of course, Elisha may not be completely correct. Kaden might be, or you'd hope to think, because Kaden, he is who himself. He was there himself. He's the witness to certain things he saw and what he did himself and people around him. Mentioning how Mikey was on the floor at some point, Brian and Isaac on the chairs, resting, completely asleep, must have been at some point, because, to say that Avery, Carter, Jasmine, Mikey never went to sleep whilst he was awake, as in when Kaden was awake at 2:43 to 3:20, roughly, they were awake. But once it got to 5:15, Mikey and some others would have had to have been asleep, because Kaden said himself in the interview, the Partners in True Crime one, Kaden had to wake the other guys up. So there's that. And as well, to say that many people were leaving at 3 in the morning, how true is that? We've heard references that Georgia Brealey left around 2 in the morning, or just a little bit onwards around that. Can be acknowledged to an extent here by Lisa with a question on one of my videos, and Elisha did respond. So Georgia was home at 2:43 a.m. based on Kaden Pressy's partner in true crime interview and the 2:43 timestamp of when Elisha had called him to say that the cousin has made it back home for Kaden. Lisa says, and it takes, about 50 to 55 minutes to drive the distance back home. That means Georgia must have left the party at around approximately 2 in the morning. And maybe some other people could agree with that, or what we've heard before. And it might have been mentioned possibly by one of Brealey's friends or Brealey's sisters, older sisters, that came on down, who commented on Facebook about it, came on down to the party house to give George and Brealey a lift home or so because they were drunk and could not drive. And then another one of the sisters, older ones, drove Brealey's car back home. But the person down below says how Elisha didn't leave till 2. She says it's a 45-minute drive. And then Elisha responds, I never said my niece was home at 2:43. Regardless of what I say, it will be twisted. Choose to believe what you want. But if Elisha has that mind set, but Elisha also gives different timestamps at different points, or it doesn't correlate or connect with Kaden Pressy, it's a bit dysfunctional. It just doesn't work. No. Sometimes things can't be twisted if you've kind of dug yourself into a hole to begin with inconsistencies and discrepancies. See, Elisha might be true, as in, I never said my niece was home at 2:43. But Kaden Pressy says that Elisha called to tell Kaden that, her niece, that Kaden's cousin, Georgia, had made it home. And that was an acknowledgement at 2:43. So Kaden worded it wrong then, not Elisha. But Elisha not on the same wavelength as Kaden then, because of different events coming out. A similar time given, but a different event. And there's Kaden Pressy himself, just, as like a little reference talking point, and his red stroke in the background, which was seen at the party house too. It's like just a couple of screenshots, right? And just based off these, there is already discrepancies with what Kaden says in regard to a time, in regard to an event taking place or happening already, and then Elisha saying, never said she got home, but Kaden says she did get home, her cousin Georgia. So what's really going on here? And there might be some overlaps as well with a couple of the screenshots when we move on to Facebook. But let's just try and compare and contrast and see what else has been said over time. What you see on screen was posted February 2nd by Tim Daniel on the case discussion group. We'll just read a little caption, overview here, and then we'll get to the photo screenshots down below. Tim says, is everyone going by Kaden Pressy's OHP private recorded police interview of June 2024 or by his partners in true crime July 2024 interview part 1? They completely contradict each other in regard to the time frame surrounding when his mom Elisha called and when his cousin Georgia was picked up and how she got to the roadside. Why is there such a huge discrepancy between his official police interview, which I'm inclined to think is most accurate because it involves LE and you have to tell the truth, and then his more casual public partners in true crime interview? I'm really wanting to finally nail down times and sort through all the discrepancies regarding what times are really accurate. This portion of the timeline is the least accurate. It's also one of the most important to get correct because it is the last time Kaden says that he sees Noah whilst on the phone with his mom Elisha. Here are all the references I could find. You can see how confusing this gets. Please comment with any other screenshots you may have on the subject and I will add them to the post. When did his mom Elisha call? When did his cousin Georgia leave? Who drove her? what vehicles were driven, etc. At least to my knowledge and understanding since, when it comes to Breeley and Georgia, I think it might have been Breeley driving Georgia down to the party house, but they were both still of a younger age, and some outsiders or people on the inside dark side say that they were drunk by the time they got down, and that Avery, party host, allowed Georgia Breeley to stay at the house because they were obviously too drunk, didn't want him driving off because it could get in trouble, could get hurt and harm other people, drunk driving. In terms of leaving, though, who drove who, I saw on Facebook, and I don't have the screenshot with me, that either a friend of Breeley or an older sister to Breeley said that her sisters of an older age, a couple of them went on down to the party house too. Two of them at least, two sisters to Breeley. One drove Breeley and Georgia back to wherever, and the other older sister drove Breeley's car back to where they live. As for the type of car or the brand, I don't know. So it says, I believe that the answers lie in the gaps in the evening's timeline. So if I click there, it should load up, and we'll see it on the left-hand side of the screen. Ideally, I would rather want it to be in the middle, but I just don't, well, do you know what? Try do it like that. I know you don't get to fit it all on screen, but it'll do for now. I don't know which conversation or who this comes from because it's been blurred out, unfortunately. But it says, he said Noah wasn't outside when he was waiting on the porch with Georgia. Why would Kaden be waiting on the porch with Georgia? Is that when Georgia was sick and throwing up, which was at 12:48 a.m. in the morning of Monday? Because later on after that point, the next timestamp with the conversation between Kaden communicating with his mom, Elisha, at distance physically, at 1:42 a.m, Elisha said, why are you not with Georgia? You're supposed to be looking out for her. Maybe Kaden was asleep or resting at that point, passed out temporarily. That's what sparked Elisha to come on down to resolve the situation. But not all because of that, though. More to it, as in noticing movement with Georgia and where she was along the highway. But let's just continue reading. I know we arrived. We. So this must be Elisha speaking here in the text conversation. Don't know why it's been blurred out though, but that's probably just to protect yourself when reposting and archiving. So it's Elisha here. And it was Kaden saying to Elisha that Noah wasn't outside when Kaden was waiting on the porch with Georgia. For what, though? For who? For someone to arrive? Elisha says, I know we arrived about a mile away. A mile away from what? The party house? Roughly speaking, a mile away from the party house north is roughly close to where Noah's body was found at. But this is at around 3:15. And that's arriving at the spot or nearby to where Noah's body was found at later. If it's true that Noah had walked away at 3:30, for Elisha and Melissa to arrive at 3:15 and to come across Georgia too, that stuff would have been resolved earlier before Noah had even walked off. So it means that people that were down at the highway and near or at the spot where Noah died at or was found dead at 3:15, Noah wouldn't be there. But if you say 3:30, 3:40 onwards, anyone that is there at the highway, passing on by or stopping by, would be more likely to see or pass by Noah's dead body. At 3:15 now. Only based off this one screenshot, what we're looking at right now, okay? Elisha says, that is when we saw Georgia's location moving. And my sister-in-law called her and told her to tell a friend to pull over. Right. So 3:15, they've already arrived. So before 3:15, it must ring true back to the 1:42 in the morning timestamp of the conversation between Elisha and Kaden, which I've shown to you a few times in the past, where Elisha has a screenshot or so of maybe Life 360 or some other tracking gap. It shows Kaden in one room or outside and Georgia in a different room. Elisha wanted Kaden to monitor Georgia at all times, but there was a physical distance between the two. Elisha got worried because Georgia was sick and ill earlier from being drunk, drinking too much. So that's what sparked Elisha to come on down with Melissa as well. That's the main reason. Not the whole moving location thing. That was a secondary factor, which then sparked communication to be made where Elisha had called her. Okay. Told her to tell her friend to pull over. But that wouldn't make sense with what Elisha says here. But Elisha or Melissa or both had to phone call Georgia to get Georgia, the passenger, to tell the driver, as her friend, Breely, to pull over. But what we've heard of on Facebook ever since by some sisters of Breely that said, no, we, of an older age, were the ones that came on down in our own vehicle. Two sisters of Breely, to give Breely and Georgia a ride back home because Breely was too drunk to drive, Georgia drunk as well. Initially, Sunday, 10:30, Breely drove Georgia to the party, Georgia being the passenger. So the next time that they would leave at any given time, Monday morning onwards, once again, Breely would be doing the driving, Georgia would be the passenger, but because they were both drunk, obviously couldn't drive. That's why the sisters came on down of Breely. One sister drove Georgia Breely home or wherever, the other sister took Breely's car back home, so nothing was left behind. But for Elisha here to word it as Georgia contacting Georgia to get a friend to pull over, well, Breely wasn't driving, so Elisha supposedly has got that wrong, or the sister of Breely, or one of the sisters of Breely online is lying. What a mess. And it continues on, saying, we got Georgia in our car and drove home to Duncan, right? When Georgia left, he went back inside. I'm guessing as in Kaden went back inside and went to sleep. I asked if he saw Noah, and he said the last time he saw Noah, he was mad at a girl and was going to take a shower. What? That's all over the place. Because if you're interpreting it as Noah being mad with a girl, that could apply to the bedroom debacle. Wanting to sleep in one of the girls' beds, didn't work out, Noah's a bit pissed, ends up walking away. But in terms of a shower, well, all we've ever really heard, without any given time stamps, but in the order of how it's been arranged and described over and over again within the community, is that you've got 1:50 in the morning, a bathroom photo selfie of Noah Presgrove, Jack Newton. And then the next thing that was really mentioned as for an event is, with credit to Kaden, giving a timestamp based off a photo of the after events, 2:40 in the morning on Monday, with the side-by-side rollover, then followed by the shower, and then followed by maybe possible teabagging, then maybe followed by being fed ramen noodles and yogurt by Carter Combs, and then finally the event at the bedroom debacle, Noah wanting to sleep in Avery's and or Logan's, not working out. Noah calls Avery a fat beep and then walks away and leaves the house at 3:30 to cool down, with intent of returning back like how he's always done in the past, but wasn't able to this time round. That's what we've heard. But how Elisha has worded it here at some point, that it was in a completely different order, that the shower took place a bit after, that the bedroom debacle possibly, because that's the only argument I can think of with Noah with a girl, happened before the shower. What? I don't know what the hell is going on here. And I just don't understand it with Kaden and Georgia, as if Kaden was waiting with Georgia for Georgia to be picked up, but then it jumps ahead to then Georgia is in a vehicle with Breely and somebody else, if we're interpreting it externally, that they've left. Kaden's still on the porch outside waiting or doing something by himself, and then once it's resolved a bit onwards, then Kaden goes back in to sleep. I don't remember Kaden ever wording it as I went outside on the front porchway waiting by the sides of Georgia for whatever and still waiting there onwards afterwards like a lost puppy. I never remember seeing that. The only exception would be Kaden Pressy being outside the front porchway area, patio area more so, when Georgia has her head in her hands and she's sat down, leaning in between her legs after throwing up, but that was at 12:48 Monday morning, really early on. So I don't think that quite links to what's mentioned on here, because after 12:48 in the morning onwards, some time did pass by, a couple of hours or so, until the time of when Georgia Breely left. Anyway, moving on, this individual, a person online, member of the general public, I believe, Jamie Cooney, says oh no, we're back to this, he, she, who the hell is he? And of course it might be easy for some, but for other people, who knows what it could be about? If you're new to a case, how are you going to know? So I'll do my best to fill in the blanks with the names of people. He went to sleep, as in Kaden Pressy went to sleep. Kaden said after he dropped his cousin off down the street at around 3:15 in the morning. What is this? Now, who is Jamie Cooney? If this is just a member of the general public who's not in contact with Kaden and not, a member of the local community or area, do they really know what they're talking about? Yeah, these can be old comments from the past that might not apply anymore, but they did at a point. You get what I'm saying? Kaden said, well, at least publicly and from the interviews, Kaden Pressy, to my knowledge, has never said he dropped his cousin Georgia off down the street. Why would that even happen? How would that even make sense? Down the street? What street? Why do you need to drop someone off down the street? Where? And in terms of what distance? Are you talking about the street as in the highway? Kaden gets into his red Cherokee with Georgia, drives Georgia down the highway, down the street, drops her off in the middle of nowhere in a pitch black bloody road, and then drives back to the party house? What? Are you talking about the street as in the dirt road which leads down to the party house? Why the hell would you need to get someone in a vehicle, drive down the street to where? What, before the railroad tracks or just after, onto the highway, kick her out the vehicle, and then drive back? Why would you even do that? There's no point, it makes no sense. And even if there was sense to be made, why would you need to drive someone down a street when it's only when it's clearly under a mile? Very, 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 very short distance. It could take like 2 minutes to get from point A to point B, and you got to give someone a lift down the road. What the hell's going on there? It's like going out into your back garden, jumping onto a lawnmower to give someone a taxi ride down to the bottom of the garden, and it's not even that long. How weird. What else do we have? Kaden did, but Noah lives 30 miles away. No, that's not right. It's not 30 miles away. It's about 42.4 miles away, okay? And he only drove his cousin, as in Kaden drove Georgia a mile down the street to meet his aunt, her mom. Right, there we go. we got a little bit more context. But why though? Why do you have to have a middle meeting ground? If people are having contact with one another, why does Kaden have to go out of his way, supposedly, to take Georgia down to the highway in the dark, to then park up a meeting zone, whether her mum and already there or not, to do like a switch over change? If there was clear communication, if it was really needed, well then Melissa, the mom, and the aunt known as Elisha should have just gone down to the party house immediately, and Kaden didn't have to give anyone a lift down to the highway. It's shittily worded, this, but I'll tell you something. From like what Elisha had said in one of her comments, let's get to it. Yeah. When we saw Georgia's location moving, it was already 3:15. We're already a mile down or a mile away from the party house on the highway. We saw Georgia with Breely and her sister driving, moving the location. That's when a call's made to say, hey, if you're coming down this way, you better stop, pull on over, because we're already down at the highway waiting for you to pass by. We need to collect you. You need to go home now, Georgia. Okay. So if Melissa, the mum, and Elisha are already at the highway at 3:15, why couldn't they just go down to the party house then, instead of Kaden having to pick Georgia, then go a mile down the highway and then to switch? It just sounds so bloody stupid. One's right, one's wrong, both are wrong, and something else is right. As for what Jamie says here, I don't believe in it myself because it just sounds a bit silly. Some of this stuff may have been debunked with time, but how clearly debunked has it been made? Not much to me. What else do we have here? Kaden Pressy's OHP interviewed the transcript of it, or a part of it, somewhere around there, and I end up passing out after that, and my mom calls me. This is Kaden talking. My mom, Elisha, calls me around 3 a.m. to let me know that she has Georgia and she's okay, because, just out of curiosity, because that's the whatever. Well, this is a problem. This is a problem. And it's a good thing that we got a transcript here of it, because I didn't remember the time given. But then again, I might have acknowledged it in the past, but I just forgot about it. Yes, I did remember the time of when Kaden said he went back to sleep in the private police interview, but not the time as when Elisha had called Kaden to announce that Georgia had made it back home. In the Partners in True Crime interview, and I'm not going to use any clips because we know Partners in True Crime could get petty and they could give a copyright removal takedown request on me yet again. I don't want to risk anything, as you know, right? But in the private police interview, for Elisha to call Kaden and for Kaden to say it happened at 3 a.m, yet in Partners in True Crime interview, it actually happened at 2:43. There's a clear time difference. And although it might not be a massive time difference, it's big enough, because if you keep pushing it back later and later into the day, it's getting closer and closer to the time of when Noah had walked off, or when Noah had had the bedroom debacle argument, or when Noah had had the shower situation, depending the order and the time of when Kaden had been woken up and then aware and waiting until going back to sleep, closer to the time of when Noah was coming or going, things in between, more movement, action, noise, and yet still Kaden Pressy didn't see stuff. That's what's kind of interesting, right? So, Partners in True Crime, Kaden says it was 2:43 when Elisha called. Kaden Pressy, a month before, in the private police interview, Kaden says Elisha called at 3 a.m. So we've got no consistency. And as well, the bit about Georgia and she's okay, but she has Georgia. This is the other difference. That little message, what we saw, a response on YouTube by Elisha saying, at 2:43, I never stated that Georgia had made it back home, just more so that we had her. in our presence after collecting her from down the highway. Okay. Seems to be consistent here where Kaden says to let me know that she has Georgia in her possession and maybe on the way home. But in the Partners in True Crime interview, I do remember Kaden saying the call was about Elisha announcing that Georgia was back home. Not that they had her and were on the way home, but she was already home. That's another discrepancy. What else do we have here? Driving, I don't know. I haven't talked to Kathy Bingham like that, you know. Real quick, before I lose it, as in lose my train of thought or memory, Kaden says at 3:20 Monday morning, September 4th, 2023, when you talked to your mom about something, went to sleep. I go back to sleep around 3:20 after answering the phone call. Went to sleep and 3, yeah, right, because that's when your mum called and said that she was okay and Sam. Right, so based off this one private police interview, Kaden called by Elisha at 3, Elisha announcing Georgia, the cousin, is in their possession and making it on the way home. 3 in the morning onwards, it takes around 20 minutes for Kaden to go back off to sleep. And at around 3:20, Kaden was the one to say he did not see Noah Presgrove in his line of sight within the room. So where was Noah at 3:20 in the morning? 10 minutes later, that's the time of when Noah had walked out and left. That needs to be acknowledged. That there, well, we've already seen that one earlier, as I said. What are the reactions, Lelia? To Elisha. Oh, I apologise. I thought it was right before he fell asleep. My apologies. Was there one right before he fell asleep, or is that just when he saw them all in the kitchen? And thank you so much for correcting that. Elisha says, when I called Kaden at 2:42. Okay, so there's a 1 minute time difference discrepancy there. When I called him at 2:42 to tell him I had his cousin Georgia in their possession, not that they were home or they made it back, just in possession of them at the highway or driving down the highway, that is when he looked around whilst on the phone with me and was able to see where everyone was. He said he was going to sleep. Yes, close to or around 3 in the morning. What Elisha says here in his particular comment, I know it says 2 weeks ago, but it's not taken 2 weeks ago. This will be months old now. But what Elisha says here is roughly consistent to an extent with Kaden Pressy's Partners in True Crime interview in terms of the timing of when the call was made. But this here about having his cousin in possession isn't consistent with what Kaden had said in his interview, where Kaden in Partners in True Crime said, oh, Elisha said that Georgia had made it home. Not on the way home, but made it home. So there's discrepancies still there. Take a man, I don't know if these screenshots are in the correct order as when they were posted, but, you know, we just work with what we've got. What do we have here? Tara Andrews. Who the hell's that? So what is left out that message is Kaden wasn't drunk that night because he was watching over his niece because he didn't want the guys doing anything with to... Here's what he told us, me and Elisha, but then it's been said that he wouldn't take Noah home because he was drunk. Yeah, he was the one. I'm almost certainly certain that he was the one that met Elisha about a mile away, then went back to the party. So what Tara Andrews says here is kind of similar with what that other person called Cooney says. So did one get influenced by the other? And through Chinese whispers or just nodding the head without hard evidence saying, yeah, that's probably what happened. What an absolute mess. But why is their story the only one that says Noah is mad and he's going to go take a shower? Yeah, what is that all about? Noah gets mad, goes to take a shower. But Kaden Pressy was the one that said Sunday night he overheard Noah inquiring about having a shower much earlier on. Fast forward onwards to Monday morning around 2:40, supposedly, of the after events of the side-by-side rollover, then Noah going for a shower and being like escorted or assisted in with Jasmine and Carter. Then onwards, the bedroom debacle, leading to arguments, and then getting mad, and then walking off, leaving the house. Weird. But when you say, but why is their story different? Who is their story? Who is the one that originally worded it as argument happened first, shower happened second? I've never heard it in that order ever before. And on that podcast, which podcast? It's saying that this girl's cousin told her that after the side-by-side wreck, there was a nurse that checked Noah over and said he was okay, and he went back to partying. What the hell's this? A CNA is not a nurse, and everybody has been commenting on the bath video. A bath video? What's going on now? We go from showers to baths with rubber duckies? And bubbles being blown? Oh no. 2 guys in a bath? What is happening here? And how he looked unconscious. You could see the gash on his head. And Jasmine said that when she was sharing him, what does that mean? She didn't notice anything on his head. I'm turning all these bitches into the state nursing board. I've got to get all the effing names. I think, first of all, we need to get the bloody context of where this came from in the first place, because this is a complete mess. And actually, it's just Jasmine, but Caleb's sister too, for the boating accident. Oh no. But I know her name. She is a nurse practitioner now and has a bunch of specialises in several different things. Oh no. There might be some people in chat seeing this for the very first time, wondering what's going on. You're right to feel uneasy about it. It's a kink in the chain, chronological chain of events. I mean, well, the thing is, what I'm seeing here is like little remnants of what I might have heard whispers elsewhere, but as for the horse's mouth, never really seen. But if this is discussions from the army page or people from the light side, I can see a pattern forming in which quite a few rumours spreading with time and people just nodding their heads going along with it. So it just hasn't been said that Kaden left and came back to the party when all this stuff was going on, question. I mean, you would think since you're coming in at like 3:30 that you're going to hear that Noah's missing, and being a good kid, you don't go out looking for him. And even if you don't hear that he's missing because they don't say anything other than that stupid Snapchat, you don't see anything happening like, what? I agree. Have you talked to Elisha? Not sure even how to bring that up with her. It's something people like the Howards and Newtons would jump on to discredit Kaden. It's something sensitive to even discuss. Now, so you haven't communicated with Elisha, but you're saying a lot of rumours and stuff, suppose at the time. But I don't really know how to bring it up. But I mean, I need to bring it up because it's in the, I think, second party chat thing. What's the second party chat thing? What's that mean? So I mean now Becky Matlock has seen it. So is that what Stevie's been talking about all the time? About what? And Becky Matlock, is that some kind of parent to one of the party goers or something? Or a family member? What do we have here? Noah, and he said the last time he saw Noah, he was mad at a girl was going to take a shower. Oh no. What does that say? Unfortunately, it's so like zoomed in. I don't know if this is Elisha talking or somebody else. Obviously, the order doesn't quite make sense. For that to be posted there, this is me texting my sister-in-law at 1:45 a.m. This is me, as in who? Who? Elisha? Is this Elisha? It must be. It could be. This is me texting my sister-in-law. Is Elisha's sister-in-law then called Melissa? I'm not good with family trees, to be honest. Right, so my guess would be that what you see there is on possibly Snapchat or, no, iMessage on Apple. iMessage. But the context or remnants of these like photos and screenshots whilst this was at 1:45 in the morning. That photo, what you see there, is of Georgia after throwing up. Kaden Pressy taking the photo at the time of the party and then posting it to Elisha on Facebook Messenger at 12:48 a.m. The next timestamp being 1:42 in the morning. You see that photo just below there under Georgia is of the house with Georgia's ping elsewhere, Kaden's ping elsewhere. They're separated. Elisha wanted Kaden to be close to Georgia. That failed. So by 1:45 in the morning, Elisha's like, right, I've had enough. I'm going to come on down, going to take action. But in doing so, now I'm going to inform Georgia's mom, Elisha, which to Elisha is sister-in-law, to get him to go down to the highway to collect Georgia. And then you arrive at the highway at 3:15 in the morning, supposedly. But Kaden says at 2:43, Georgia was already long gone and Elisha already had him in possession. It doesn't add up. It's a complete mess. Great. Noah Presgrove Army page. Ooh. All she probably agrees that the appropriate answer is what I stated, none of your business. What I do find funny is people hiding behind their anonymous title and keyboard. Grow up, use your name. Right, who's leaving this comment? Anonymous member. Well, that's great. We don't know who that is. Responding to Anita, there is a reason for being anonymous. You of all people should understand that, Anita. Why should Anita understand it of all people? What has she done? Breely Garlinger. Breely Garlinger is the friend to Georgia, the party goer. Breely and Georgia. There we go. There's the name. Breely left the party house before 3 in the morning on September 4th. And depending on the timing of it all, it wouldn't match with the 3:15 timestamp of Elisha, or what someone else had said on behalf of Elisha. Had already left by 3. We've heard it previously or other times, or more so in recent time, that Breely and Georgia had left before or around 2 in the morning. But this person here says it was actually before 3 in the morning. So that could mean 2:40, 2:50, 2:30, 2:20. Who knows? September 4th. Time has to be confirmed. Well, that's great. So it's just rough again. She drove herself back to Comanche. Oh, no. She. Who is she? Well, it's still part of the same paragraph. Breely drove herself to Comanche. She had interactions with people down on the highway. Why? Who was down the highway? She was safely driven back to Comanche. What? So you're saying that Breely made an attempt to drive herself, with or without Georgia, to Comanche, but so far down the highway, had an interaction with some people. Oh, you mean maybe at 3:15? You mean maybe Elisha and Melissa? And at that point, who was taken safely? Who drove Breely back to Comanche safely then? Well, from what we've heard on Facebook, the sisters to Breely, older sisters. But that was also with Georgia, but having to pull over at the highway. She has valuable information she can share, either publicly or with Ellie's agency, which after 10 months, I sure hope she had a conscience to do so. Why would she not do so, though? What could she be hiding and why? Isn't that interesting that we uncover new names and new facts, Anita? What's going on here? Abby Gilmore. Oh, there we go. Finally, Tim Daniel had got the screenshot of it, which is good. So it just goes to show that my memory is there. I just didn't have the screenshot, but now we do. Abby Gilmore. Breely is my sister and left by 2 in the morning. There we go. She didn't drive. She called and was picked up by my older sister. She was gone before anything went down, I guess in regard to Noah. Anyone else have any questions, feel free to message me. Thanks. Short, simple, snappy, consistent. Well, who knows about that, but it's somewhat easier to understand. By leaving by 2 or around 2 would mean when Elisha and Melissa are involved, if this time is correct, means these different individuals wouldn't have seen Noah Presgrove because Noah was still at the party, meaning these people should be innocent and not witnesses to anything for the part, right? And it would link to Kaden's Partners in True Crime timeline of 2:42 or 2:43 being called by Elisha once things have started going underway. A little bit more consistent there. But you group this, you group Kaden's Partners in True Crime interview, you group Elisha and Melissa and the points made there, some of which, only some. Does it all still link and complement the private police recorded interview? No. It doesn't. Not really, not exactly. Are you trying to say that Georgia was not taken and... No, that's correct. She didn't drive. Leaving the party was what I meant. My other 2 sisters came to pick them up and drove her car home. Like what I said earlier. That's all fine. Partners in True Crime interview with Kaden. Around 2:43, and my mum called me saying that she had picked up my cousin because they were worried about her, and they picked her up about a mile or so down the road because they noticed the location was moving, and I told her to pull over. She was in the car with a friend, and they picked her up and called me. I went right back to sleep after that. Okay, so maybe how it's interpreted, you could say it's just down to being picked up. Interesting. Elisha says on YouTube, I never said that she had made it back home. Kaden here, based off how you could interpret the wording, being picked up, not quite being dropped off. Okay, so apologies about that. Must have misinterpreted it there. So a little bit more consistency, I guess. Apologies about that. Picked up my cousin. Because they were worried about her. Worried about her as in, I guess, because Kaden wasn't with Georgia. So it makes me think that if Kaden was around Georgia more at the party and never left her side, then I guess Elisha would never have got worried and then would never have come down. And then if that was the case, then at what point would they have left? Still the same time and then just got dropped off? Maybe. Would it have changed the outcome then? If Elisha hadn't come on down? I don't know, maybe not. But to say I went right back to sleep after that, after 2:43, which would be closer to 3 in the morning. And then we've got this one here. We saw that one. And yeah, I think you said that 3:20 was when, your mum called and was no present. Then I thought he was present, so I just went back to sleep, didn't really think about it. I think you said that at 3:20 was when, your mum called. What? At 3:20? What? If that's a transcript from the private police interview, I thought a bit earlier it said that at 3 in the morning when the call made, and 3:20 when going back to sleep. Justin Roy. What had Justin Roy said? And I agree, there's definitely something going on there. I was absolutely shocked when I found out she went to pick up Georgia at 2:45 roughly. That's still odd to me, and I do question it. I think at one time you thought foul play as well. What changed? I think their inconsistencies and lies being exposed honestly puts them all under scrutiny. That police interview with Kaden changed my whole perception. And then the weird names or something with Kathy Bingham in a video. Melissa SUV, she says 2:43 call was saying she was almost home with Georgia. That's impossible. Oh, almost home. Oh, so I could still be on the same wavelength what I was trying to get at then. Either home or on the way home, close to home, and then there's a discrepancy with being picked up on the way. More than likely, it was to say we're almost there, even though it looks suspicious. I don't believe anything bad. However, it's showing how nobody's stories coincide. Jack's is more simple and accurate with timestamps. Is Jack's simple, though? Stevie Howard to Elisha, you said after she left, what, Georgia left and Kaden went to sleep, the kids loaded her, correct? Kaden helped? What does that mean? You both state after he went back in and went to sleep, but you picked her up a mile from the party house at 3:15, but Kaden was asleep at 2 to 2:30 in the morning. So 45 to an hour later after he loaded her and went back to sleep, and you showed an hour from the home to pick her up on the side of the road. Again, I'm not accusing, it's how rumour gets started. It's going something, oh my goodness. Elisha to Stevie Howard, who said he was asleep at 2 in the morning? Kaden Pressy. Who said Kaden was asleep at 2? Kaden Pressy. We've seen it in one of the interviews. I think it might have been parts in True Crime. Yes, it was. Kaden said he went to sleep at 2 in the morning, 43 minutes later, then woken up by the call from his mom, and then close to 3 in the morning going back to sleep. In the private police interview, more so, 3 in the morning when woken up. So Kaden had already slept for possibly about an hour, more so. And then 20 minutes later after being woken up, at 3:20 going back to sleep. So there's a discrepancy between what's said in the police interview compared to what's said in the parts in True Crime interview. Whether it's out by a few minutes, if not more, 30 minutes max. One's right, one could be wrong, you'd think. You'd think maybe with a small level of common sense that the police interview is more truthful in what's said there compared to what's said later elsewhere. Elisha says, Kaden did drift off whilst Georgia, was still in the house. That's probably around the time of 1:42 when they were in separate parts of the house, and when Elisha got worried, hey Kaden, where are you? Why are you not with Georgia? And then that's what sparks the 1:45 timestamp of Elisha using those screenshots as proof to reach out to Georgia's mom saying, look, this is the situation. We need to head on down to the highway. Maybe. But he didn't go lay on the couch until around 3 in the morning. Oh, so Elisha is saying Kaden went to sleep at around 3 in the morning. Kaden says he went to sleep at 2 in the morning. Kaden says he woken up at 2:43 by Elisha calling. But in the police interview, Kaden says, no, actually, I was woken up at 3 in the morning. So Elisha says Kaden went to sleep at 3. Kaden says he was woken up at 3. What? Doesn't make sense. IR means Isaac Rojas was the only other person in that house asleep at that time. He never loaded her. You're making that up. She, as in Georgia, was walking and went to her sober friend's car. Sober friend's car? You mean Breeley? But Breeley's sisters has said that they just couldn't drive and needed their sisters to take him back. So that's not consistent. Stop it with the not accusing you mess. Rumours just get started by the nonsense that you just posted. And David Duncan, Stevie Howard can't wait to see. Okay, can I zoom out? I think that might be all of the screenshots because it won't let me go down anymore. But yeah, why has it done that on screen? Didn't Logan or Avery watch him walk off? You mean Noah? That would probably be the most accurate time of when he left. Well, yeah, but we're not really looking at Noah here. We're looking at Kaden and Georgia and when Georgia left. I know it's still an ongoing investigation, but an update would be nice. Any responses? Not really. I'm trying to look for if there's any other screenshots. Inconsistencies. What's this one? Who said he was asleep at 2? He did drift away still in the house, but didn't like... Oh, we saw that one already. Well, this is one. Besides Kaden and Elisha's times, I hope you ask Avery, Logan and Carter for their timelines, like when did Noah walk off and so on. Do you know if all of them had changed clothes and Carter and Jasmine shower them too? Well, Carter has said so. And what time did it take place? And what time did they and the Texas boys go looking for Noah? Well, in recent time, Robin Smith said the Texas boys never went looking for Noah. So what's that all about then? When did Jack really go asleep again? Different stories. I see a lot of he, but where are the messages from Kaden? Is there only the OHP and screenshots? He has only ever made one single typed out statement about that night. Actually, Tim Daniel, there might be a second statement by Kaden Pressy, possibly. There was definitely at least one. And the one that I remember, Kaden worded it as in he went to sleep at 3 a.m, which is true based on his Partisan True Crime interview, but how it was worded in his public Facebook statement, I interpreted it as he went to sleep for the very first time, as in 3 a.m, kind of like what Elisha said in some of those screenshots. But what Kaden actually said in his Partisan True Crime interview, he went to sleep at 2 a.m. for the first time. Then he was woken up at 2:43. Then he went back to sleep at 3 a.m. But Kaden's first and original Facebook statement was not, I went back to sleep at 3 a.m, but I went to sleep. There's a difference. So there was a misunderstanding back then, how I interpreted it with Kaden. But that was just down to the wording. What else do we have? I think we need to remember every one of these kids suffered trauma. There's a slight inconsistencies of their statements. I wouldn't say there's slight inconsistencies though, are there? Because some people are out by an hour long, 30 minutes, and a lot can happen in a space of time like that. And whilst, yes, there might be trauma, whilst there might be memory loss over time, if by any chance you could look back to the original comments really early on in the case where there might be a bit more truth, where the things and feelings and memories are more raw and almost like refreshed, could go a long way. But do we have access to that? I guess not. Now we need to remember that all the kids have suffered trauma, which is what lots of us have been saying all along. There's a grace for one person, but zero grace for others. Oh, you mean basically Kaden Pressy is understood and there's a leniency, but other partygoers are not treated the same way. Right, it's a bit one-sided. Well, I think what's roughly mentioned there is like what I would have talked about. What else do we have? I don't understand this whole thread. Everything is hearsay and it's gotten ridiculous. Ellie is ruled out, hit and run from the very start, so why does it all this matter? Why does any of this matter? Well, it matters because you like to have an understanding of who was what, where was where, and what time, just so it's a bit clearer to understand. Why do you want lots of mess? Okay? It's like going onto the beach. Oh, so what? We've still got the sand and the view, but guess what? There's loads of rubbish about and lots of shit everywhere, but never mind. No, it shouldn't be like that in the first place. It's just not supposed to be that way. It's not practical. Same with a timeline, a storybook. You want to be reading a storybook where page 1 is glued at the back and page 99 is at the start? That makes no sense. What's the point? Have it in order, because it's just like a formal procedure in a case. And what's also important, if not more, is truly understanding the times of it all, because the later back it is, the further on it is into Monday morning, the closer it is to when Noah and the events unfolded. And if people are about at certain times in key areas, such as the Highway 2 and Mile Down, that's basically near or around where Noah's body was found at. So the people that come and go and remain or whatever and pass by, did they see anything at any point with Noah? Focus on establishing the most accurate timelines of events, and where I'm encountering significant inconsistencies. There's more inconsistencies here because there's more public talking online, so there's more room for error, more room for just looking at it with a microscope or some degree. Other partygoers could have done the same thing, made the same mistakes, but they chose not to interact online as much, if not at all. So we can't do the same. If Kaden Pressy and Elisha weren't speaking public, then we would be completely blind to it all. Would we be better off? In some ways, yes, but in other ways, in understanding the case, no. We would just be completely clueless. So, yeah. I don't know why, but here is Kaden's own words on that subject. What subject? Whenever I came home that day, I told my mother all of what happened. So long, I've forgotten some details, and she has remembered them. No, the driver was the same height or a little bit taller than Jack. A something build, chunky guy, had like a beard. He had a high-vis vest jacket on, and so like utility worker, semi-truck. Okay, cool, said a semi-truck. What? I thought Kaden said it wasn't a semi-truck, it was a service truck. No, a lot of people are saying that there was... I mean, when Kaden says he got back home to tell his mother what happened, that was around 8 in the morning onwards. But we saw Elisha in a comment on Facebook mention at 6 a.m. in the morning, we, the parents, called police to tell the news of what happened to Noah. Weird. There's a lot of stuff going on. As I said, to apply it on a map, I just don't think it's worthwhile at this moment because it's a bit all over. Right, I'll just give you my closing thoughts. Is it possible to reach an absolute conclusion of certainty as to where it really is right now? Maybe not. I mean, what needs to be acknowledged is those screenshots, what we've taken a look at, not every one is categorized correctly, I guess. Apologies if I'm wrong. What I'm getting at is so many different screenshots of conversations over time, and Tim Daniel has done a good job in retrieving them, or as many as one can possibly do, but granted there might be a couple here and there which Tim doesn't have or didn't have at the time, but maybe I've shown separately on my channel. But still, at the end of the day, when it comes to Facebook, certain comments and messages, they just don't show the timestamp, or more so the date, the month, the year. So it's a guessing game. A screenshot of a comment at the time of when it was posted 2 minutes ago, 2 weeks ago, 30 minutes ago. Yeah, at the time. And at the time, it could have been December of 2024. Or it could have been October, November of 2023. 20 minutes away from the time of when it was posted to when it was screenshotted. But then if you've saved it from then till a few years later to have a look back at it, you see it and it says posted 2 minutes ago, 1 minute ago. But that's just relevant to way back then at the time of when someone took the screenshot, not right now in real time. So it's just not accurate or deep enough. And the reason why it's important to know the context and where it came from and when and where behind these different conversations and comments, even though it's not really possible, it would need to be, it should be, because with time, opinions can change, statements can change, facts can be adjusted, times can be adjusted. Consistently, could say it's hearsay because it's not hard evidence, even if it is from people of interest, or those that know of people of interest and witnesses. But as well, estimates are always given. Sometimes it's worded as an estimate, and other times it's not worded as an estimate, which you could interpret it as a fact, even though it's still hearsay. It's not good. Language and wording goes a long way, and it's not going further enough here, or in this case. So there are misunderstandings with time. I will have some misunderstanding as well at times with language, as you see. But whilst, yes, you can acknowledge like what Robin Smith had said at one point to then what she said at a different point, that she believes it's cold-blooded, vicious murder, but then at a different point thinking, no, it couldn't have been that. Noah's friends are good people, they just wouldn't do that to Noah. I agree, Brooke Bounds-Carter. That's like the extreme contrast of how viewpoints, outlooks have changed with time. The same can apply to Kaden or Elisha or anyone else in between. But if you don't know what order it happened in, and it's a bit all over the place, you might not be able to find an established idea. Like, I'll give you an example. An ideal situation, if Kaden and Elisha gave certain estimated times at some point, and then later on in the case, they were adjusted to different times. The original times were estimates. The later updated posts and comments regarding other times were more accurate and true to the actual hard evidence. and there was a clear date and time of when these comments were posted, you can argue and say, well, they've learned more with time, they remember more, or evidence collected since to back it up. So an estimate has turned into a fact, and there's an order to it, a correct order. But it's not like that here. It's like, oh, 2:43 here, 3:15 there, 3 in the morning there, 3:20 here, 2 in the morning there, 3 here. It's just all over the place. So clearly it's not been solved yet. And how can it be solved? Well, if the horse's mouth responds back, first of all, and then if ever, hard evidence. And once again, people say the patterns and themes of the videos, why we constantly talk about Kaden or Elisha, it's because they've put themselves out there more. There is more material to work with in question. I could do a video questioning Carter Combs or Avery or Jack, but with what? What material? What times? What amount? Same amount of discrepancies as in like with Kaden and Elisha just isn't there. Oh, can you argue and say, well, other people did the smart thing and not speak, keep the mouth shut publicly, but work in the background? Well, to be honest, at times, in other cases, people can speak openly, publicly, within reason, and providing it's consistent enough, it can go a long way, and it can help the general public learn, and it can squash rumours, and it can clear up problems. You know? True crime cases, which are open to interpretation but don't get enough answers or updates, it can go into a wild frenzy of possible conspiracies, people taking matters into their own hand and it getting out of hand, escalating and causing trouble to the case. It is a level of control or a little update here and there, a little conference, press conference, release update from family or police, that would go such a long way. Do these people in these roles owe the general public answers though? Not always. But as a means of protecting the case and controlling the masses, sometimes it might be of best interest to do a little update here and there, and that's just not happened ever since. I mean, honestly, when's the last time there was breaking news and it was covered in different ways? I might be going too far back, but would it be around the time of the autopsy? Was the autopsy out in May of 2024? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I started covering the case June 1st, 2024, and then shortly came across the autopsy Daily Mail article and analysed that. Maybe the last bit of, not breaking news, but a reflection would have been that 1 year anniversary of Noah Presgrove, a little recap, but there really wasn't much to it either. And the family did their own thing in private, which is understandable. That was a time when you had the war, World War III, with the Justice page and the Army page. So, with that being said, I just don't really see much else as for breaking news. But if you wanted to argue and say some breaking news in like what Victor Presgrove had to say in his response in recent time in regard to the whole rumour of Noah reaching out and calling his father Victor about a ride home and Victor saying never happened. Breaking news and important. Which plonkers and which prats and tossers thought it was a good idea to make that rumour up? What was the point and purpose of it? Where did it originate from? At the end of the day, my question to you is, out of all the pages and groups online, which group is most known for creating rumours, jumping the gun, being easily pleased, and just going with it without hard evidence? Is it the Army page, discussion page, sofa page, official Reddit page? Let me know down below in the comments. Hopefully you found this video somewhat interesting. It may have rejogged your memory. And for some, you may have never seen these screenshots before. But if you do want to catch up on any recent coverage in general, you'll be able to find the full playlist where the eye symbol is. And the comments can be down below if you do have any additional follow-ups. My name's Wallach Rad. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.